I'm starting a new series called 5 and Dine, where I prepare meals for $5 or less per serving. My preference is for either 5 ingredients or less, or 5 steps or less, or both of those things. Simple, affordable, delicious, nutritious meals is my goal. $5 or less per serving. Dishes where you could go out and get every single thing that you need to make this dish and just use what you pick up at the store that day to make the dish. I have a 5-pound bag of chicken drumsticks. This was $5 and change at my store, and I will include a list of all the ingredients and the prices at the end of the video. I have arranged those down in the bottom of my crock pot. I've got 1 small yellow onion. I diced that yellow onion and I'm gonna put that on top of the chicken in the crock pot. It looks like this. We're going to make our sauce. I'm using a mixing bowl. To that, I'm going to add 1 can. This is 10 ounces of cream of chicken soup. Filled that can about halfway with water, and I'm just gonna mix it all around, scraping the sides, making sure that we're getting all that flavor into our dish. And I'm just gonna pour that right in here. The next thing that we're adding is called chili starter. This is a little bit more than just a plain can of crushed tomatoes. Also includes pepper, salt, dried onion, cumin, dried garlic. So it's gonna add a lot more flavor than just a regular can of crushed tomatoes. And you can tell that it has a lot of seasonings, a lot of flavor in it. We're gonna add that to the bowl with the cream of chicken soup. And again, I added just a little bit of water to the bottom of this can, but I'm gonna swish it around, stir it around, make sure that we're getting all that flavor into our dish. And then I'm just gonna pour that right in. And the last thing that I'm adding is a can of chicken broth. Everything that we've added already contains salt. So just to bring the salt content of the final dish down a little bit, I went with reduced sodium on the chicken broth. And then I'm just going to whisk this all together, pour my sauce into my crock pot over the chicken and the onions. This completely filled my crock pot. If you don't have a crock pot this large, or you just don't want to prepare this much food all at once, this is kind of a meal prep meal. You could just do a pound or 2 of the drumsticks, omit the can of chicken broth, and that'll help bring your liquid down so it'll fit better in a smaller crock pot, or if you just want to make less, it will give you a more appropriate amount of liquid for a pound or 2 of chicken. I put this on high for 4 hours and then turned it down to low and cooked it overnight. I didn't add any salt because every single thing that we added has salt in it. I also didn't add any seasonings. We're seasoning this up with our sauce, which we made with all these ingredients that already contain seasonings. When I came downstairs this morning, it smelled amazing, and here is why. I served this up with peas on the side. So let's give this a little taste test. The chicken is nice and tender. The sauce is really flavorful. The meat is just fall off the bone tender, like just so tender and juicy. I paired this with some peas as my side. I try to keep this dish low carb. A lot of super budget friendly meals are very carb heavy, which makes sense because carbs are filling, they are budget friendly, and they're delicious. But personally, I can't eat that way. So I wanted to come up with some options for people who need or want to eat low carb. You could also serve this, of course, with pasta. You could serve it over rice, potatoes, or any other kind of veggie that you like. As far as nutrition, so I broke this down into 12 servings, which gives you 452 calories per serving, 54 grams of protein, and only 9 grams of carbohydrates. There are 670 grams of sodium per serving, which is 30% of your recommended daily allowance. So if you're eating 3 meals per day, that's appropriate. If you want to reduce the sodium count, however, what you can do is just use a can of no salt added diced tomatoes, and then just add in some herbs that you'll be missing if you're not using the chili starter. You could add Italian seasoning or Mrs. Dash or a combination of those things. If you wanted to make this dish lower in fat, what you can do is when you're done cooking, when you open your crock pot and your dish is done, all the fat that has rendered out of the drumsticks will be floating at the top. So just use a ladle or a serving spoon to scoop that off and discard that, and that will bring the fat content down if that's a worry for you. It is a very saucy dish. It's a little bit more watery than a traditional cacciatore, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. There's lots of sauce there. So if you're stretching this out over multiple meals, you're gonna have plenty of sauce to put over your rice or your pasta or your mashed potatoes or whatever you're serving with. If you wanted to make it a little bit thicker, you could omit the can of chicken broth, and that would bring the liquid content down. It'd be more like a traditional chicken cacciatore. The total cost of this dish was just $9.15. So if you're getting 12 servings out of this, that means it's just 76 cents per serving. So even if you're adding sides or doubling up on your servings, it's still a really budget-friendly dish. But more importantly, or equally as important, is it's really delicious. And bonus, it's also super nutritious.